My name is Lucy, and I'm 31. If you asked whether I ever carried big dreams, I'd say yes. For as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a singer, the kind who could walk on stage and hold an entire room captive with a single note. But reality cut that dream short. After finishing college, I ended up working as a credit officer at a small bank in Raleigh, North Carolina. It wasn't what I had imagined for myself, but it was steady work, enough to cover rent and chip away at my student loans. I met Nathan at a college reunion one of my friends hosted. He was close to her, and during a celebrity guessing game, we got paired up. Nathan was quick to laugh, smooth in conversation, and most important, he understood the passion I had tucked away. He once chased the arts too. Back in college, he'd danced with a crew before trading creativity for a business career to keep his family happy. Within weeks of that party, we were dating. My mom kept pressing me about settling down, reminding me she was waiting for a grandchild. And though I wasn't completely ready, Nathan's affection made it easier to say yes. He spoiled me in those early days, outdoor dinners, thoughtful gifts, even new headphones because he knew I hummed while cleaning. A year later, we married, and I left the bank job to focus on building a home. Nathan worked at a financial consulting firm in Charlotte, earning well enough to tell me I deserved rest after years of nonstop work. It wasn't long after the wedding that I began to notice how his family operated. Nathan had a younger sister, Ivy, 3 years behind us. His parents always said Ivy lost her voice and mobility after a fever when she was 8. The image I carried was of someone fragile, confined to a wheelchair and a bed. But meeting her changed that. Ivy wasn't defined by sorrow. She communicated through drawings and a letterboard, and there was a brightness in her that surprised me. At first I was shy, but soon I understood her through expressions, smiles, and the way her eyes lit up. One afternoon on the porch, I traced a musical note in the air, and Ivy responded by sketching a heart. I laughed, signing back, "You understand me?" She nodded, eyes sparkling as if we'd just whispered a secret only we shared. Ivy was light. Her mother, Linda, on the other hand, was a storm contained in silence. She inspected me like an item she still had the option to return. Stepping into her house felt like sitting for an exam I hadn't studied for. "Don't leave Nathan's shoes there," she'd scold. "If he looks sloppy, people won't respect you either." I'd force a smile, tuck them neatly away, and remind myself to stay small. Linda had rules for everything: how towels were folded, how laundry was hung. To her, Nathan was always her little boy, and I remained an outsider no matter my title as wife. After we married, Nathan and I lived just 20 minutes away, but Linda always knew when I was alone. She'd appear unannounced, groceries in hand, and advice delivered like orders, as if I were staff rather than family. Marriage, I thought, meant peace. Instead, I'd stepped into a household with an unspoken hierarchy, where my efforts were obligations, and Linda's approval was the only currency. Yet, Ivy, the one dismissed as helpless, would become the only ally I had. The cracks with Nathan appeared quietly. A few months after our first anniversary, I noticed the small gestures fading. No smile when I handed him coffee. No text at lunch. No questions about my day. Work became his excuse for late nights, and I convinced myself he was just busy. But the space between us only grew. If I asked, he dodged. If I stayed silent, he never filled the gap. Meanwhile, Ivy pulled me closer. I visited her often, despite Linda's disapproval. Ivy would be waiting by the window with her sketchpad, ready to show me cats in hats or kites in the sky. In her art, I saw someone far more aware and alive than her family admitted. I began teaching myself sign language at night, starting with hello and thank you until it grew into full conversations. Signing with Ivy felt like breaking out of a cage Linda had built around me. But Linda's words never softened. One evening, after I'd helped Ivy tidy her room, she said, "Nathan might have chosen you, but that doesn't mean I have to like you." I stayed quiet, not out of defeat, but because I knew silence unsettled her more than any reply. Nathan never stepped in either. "That's just how Mom is," he'd shrugged. Eventually, I stopped telling him, and he stopped asking. One autumn evening, I baked pumpkin bars for Ivy and carried them to Nathan's parents' house. When I walked in, Nathan was laughing with his mother, a sound I hadn't heard from him around me in ages. He looked surprised to see me. "You're here tonight?" he asked flatly. "I made these for Ivy," I answered softly. Linda cut in before I could say more. "Family can come by any time." Her tone was sweet on the surface, but I knew who wasn't included in that definition. I went to Ivy, who clutched a blue pillow instead of her sketchpad. She looked at me like she could read my heart. I smiled weakly, signed I'm fine though. My hands trembled. That night, back home, I asked Nathan, is there something you're not telling me? He flinched. It's just work. Don't overthink. Always the same words. Always the same distance. Weeks later, one quiet morning, Nathan entered the kitchen while I was making breakfast. He set his phone down, hesitating. Do you have plans next week? He asked. My chest tightened. He rarely cared about my schedule. No. Why? My family's going to Hawaii. My parents and me. For a fleeting second, excitement bubbled up. Hawaii was the place we once dreamed of visiting together. But his face told me the truth. I wasn't included. So, what about me? I asked carefully. Nathan looked away. This time, it's just family. But there's something important. They'd like you to stay here and take care of Ivy. I froze, hurt slicing deeper than I expected. Take care of Ivy. Why not bring her? Mom said traveling that far would be too hard on her. And she thinks you're the best one for the job. You're close to Ivy, right? His words were polite, but they felt like a trap. Leave. No room for me to refuse. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Nathan rushed to open it. A minute later, Linda stepped in, her eyes sharp and unyielding. I believe Nathan already explained, she said coldly. I stood there in my own kitchen, breath heavy in my chest, realizing I had never felt more unwanted in my marriage than in that moment. Nathan remained quiet beside her. Do you have any objections? She pressed, her tone daring me to speak. Inside, I was boiling, yet I refused to show it. Instead, I forced a faint smile and answered softly, hiding the deep disappointment building inside me. No, of course not. I'd be happy to take care of Ivy. Linda nodded, clearly pleased. Good, now we can enjoy our vacation knowing Ivy will be looked after. Nathan turned away, avoiding my eyes. When his mother stepped outside to wait in the car, he moved closer and whispered, I'm sorry, Lucy, I didn't mean to put you in a tough spot, but everything's already arranged. I looked up at him, masking my feelings. Sounds like, you made your decision before asking me, didn't you? He went quiet, then muttered under his breath, I didn't have a choice. And with that, he left the room quickly, leaving me standing in the kitchen, surrounded by silence. I had done everything I could to please his family, and this was my reward: indifference and choices made without me. Still, one thought gave me relief. At least I wouldn't have to face Linda's scrutiny for the next several days. That afternoon, I went to Nathan's parents' house to see Ivy. She sat by the window, her face lighting up the moment I walked in. I sat down beside her and signed gently. I'm going to stay here with you for a few days, okay? Ivy looked up suddenly, blinking her big eyes, and signed back. They left you behind again. Her words startled me. It was the first time she'd ever used that phrase, left behind. I nodded, no longer hiding the truth. Yes, they went to Hawaii. Ivy studied me, then signed something that froze me in place. We have plans too. They'll be surprised. I stared at her, speechless, but she only smiled with a mysterious glint in her eyes. In that moment, I realized maybe Ivy understood the family's secrets better than anyone, and what she was about to reveal might turn being left behind into the opportunity I had never seen coming. The next morning, I drew open the curtains in my in-laws' living room. Spring sunlight spilled inside, soft and warm. The house was quiet. Nathan's family had left for the airport early. No more Linda's complaints, no more judgmental stares about how I swept the floor. Carrying a cup of coffee, I stepped into Ivy's room like always. She lay on her side, gazing at the lavender bush outside the window. I knocked softly. I brought coffee, vanilla blend, the one you like. Ivy turned her head slowly. What happened next shattered everything I believed. She pushed herself up into a sitting position. I froze, my heart pounding so hard it felt unreal. What are you doing? I stammered. Ivy let out a soft laugh and then spoke. Her voice was calm and steady. Relax, don't freak out. The coffee nearly slipped from my hand. Ivy, you can talk, you can walk. She stood from the bed, taking solid steps toward me, no trembling, no hesitation. I never lost the ability to walk or talk, she said evenly. It was all an act. One I had to keep for years to protect myself. Memories rushed back, pushing her wheelchair, comforting her after Linda's scolding. Had all of that been fake? Why? I whispered. Ivy motioned for me to sit, then spoke with clarity. I'm Nathan's half-sister. His father had me with his first wife. Linda never accepted me. After my dad died, she took control. To her, I was a burden. When I was 10, I had a high fever. She didn't take me to the hospital, and later she told neighbors I had brain damage. When I recovered, I decided silence was safer. I struggled to process her words. You pretended all these years, not forever, she said with a small smile. But I realized the weaker I looked, the less they noticed me. And the less attention I got, the more freedom I had. Though you always treated me like a real person. I sat in shock. As the puzzle pieces finally aligned, her knowing looks when Linda lashed out, her secret smiles, the winks, Ivy had always been aware. But why now? I asked. She stood, pulled a suitcase from the closet, and smiled. Because we're going on a trip. Did you think I'd sit here while they had fun in Hawaii? My jaw dropped. You're going to Hawaii? She nodded confidently. Plane tickets, hotel, everything's ready. You have a ticket too. Dad left me money, and I saved it for this moment. Ivy's eyes grew serious. Lucy, you need to see who Nathan and Linda really are. You deserve the truth. And trust me, Hawaii is where everything changes. For the first time in months, I felt chosen, not to serve, not to please, but to rise. I smiled. If you're ready, then so am I. She nodded, her smile blooming. And just like that, the journey began, not just to Hawaii, but toward the truth behind the marriage I once thought was safe. The next morning, just after sunrise, Ivy and I boarded a flight. I still felt breathless. Yesterday, I'd been resigned to being the one left behind. Now, I was flying beside the sister-in-law the world believed was helpless. Ivy wore a white shirt and jeans. Her hair tied back, sunglasses on, confident and free. Every so often, she turned to me with a playful smile, like we were sharing a secret. Not shocked. She teased as the attendant handed us drinks. I shook my head. Not shocked. Just never imagined things would turn like this. She sipped her orange juice. Sometimes it takes a shock to wake us from a bad dream. I stayed quiet. She was right, I had been dreaming too long. After nearly 6 hours, we landed in Honolulu. A taxi took us to a luxury beachfront resort. Everything had already been prepaid in Ivy's name. At the desk, she slipped me my room key and quietly signed for me to stay silent once inside. I asked, Ivy, how did you pay for all of this? She smiled calmly. Dad left me money. I kept it safe for the right time. This is it. I stared at the waves outside. So, where are we meeting them? She pulled out her phone, showing me a reservation. Tonight, 7 p.m., poolside restaurant. They booked for 6. Same place. And you're sure they don't know? Positive. Different building. Same resort. They won't see us unless we want them to. The day passed quietly, but I felt like I was waiting for a curtain to rise. For once, I wasn't just the forgotten extra. I was stepping onto the stage. At 6 o'clock, Ivy tied her hair up and slipped into a silk emerald jacket. I wore a navy dress, simple but graceful. We looked transformed, women no longer underestimated. As we approached the restaurant, Ivy squeezed my hand. They'll be shocked. Don't get angry, let them reveal themselves. I nodded, pulse racing. We stopped just outside the poolside tables. Ivy whispered, that's her. My stomach dropped. You mean? She's the one Nathan's been seeing. Ivy nodded. I saw messages on Mom's phone. They called her the backup plan. I looked back at the table, my husband laughing, whispering into another woman's ear, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. Ivy turned to me. Ready? I tightened my grip on her hand, a cold smile curving on my lips. Yeah. Time for the real show to begin. We hid behind a line of palm trees, only a few paces from where Nathan's family sat. Golden lights glowed overhead, glasses chimed together, and laughter drifted through the night air. At the center, my mother-in-law Linda lifted her wine glass with a radiant smile. For once, she didn't look like the sharp-tongued critic who had spent years belittling me. What froze me in place wasn't her, though it was Nathan. He sat shoulder to shoulder with a young woman I'd never seen before. She was polished, self-assured, and far too comfortable. Her hand rested on his as if it had every right to be there. Nathan's face carried not a trace of shame. No regret. No guilt. Just a man who had walked out on his wife, leaving her to tend to his supposedly helpless sister, and moved on without hesitation. Ivy slipped something small into my palm. A phone with an earpiece attached. I hid a recorder under their table before they arrived, she whispered. I thought you'd want to hear what they say. With trembling fingers, I slid the earpiece in. Their voices poured into my ear, crisp and undeniable. She's never been of any real value. Linda's voice cut sharply. She hasn't contributed a thing to this family. If you divorce her, at least make it worthwhile. Nathan's tone followed low, deliberate. I'll handle it. We'll spin it as emotional neglect. My lawyer's confident I can walk away without giving her a cent, maybe even profit from it. Linda gave a pleased laugh. And that girl beside you? Compared to Lucy, she's gold next to rotting wood. My chest tightened. I yanked the earpiece out, jaw locked. Ivy caught my eye, silently waiting for my cue. I nodded. Together, we stepped out of the shadows and moved straight toward the table. Each footfall echoed on the wooden deck of the restaurant. Nathan was the first to notice. His eyes went wide. Linda froze mid-toast, her glass trembling in mid-air. Good evening, I said evenly, my voice clear. I trust you're all enjoying dinner. Nathan stammered. Lucy, what are you doing here? Before I could answer, Ivy strode forward and calmly pulled a chair out across from Linda. You are walking. Linda's words broke in disbelief. Ivy's reply was soft, yet cutting. I've been able to walk for over a year. But you always needed me to play the helpless burden, so I let you believe it. Silence crashed over the table. The woman beside Nathan quickly withdrew her hand, her complexion pale. I placed my phone on the table, tapped play, and let their own words spill out for everyone to hear. Linda urging him to take the assets. Nathan planning to paint me as neglectful. Their voices filled the air as nearby diners turned their attention toward us. Nathan shot up, his voice shaking. What are you doing? Are you trying to humiliate me in public? I met his gaze without flinching. You've been humiliating me for over a year, just never out loud. Linda's composure cracked. Lucy, wait, we can explain. There's nothing to explain. I cut her off. I have the truth, and I'll be seeing my lawyer. This divorce won't be quiet. Nathan lunged, trying to grab my hand. I pulled back and raised mine sharply. Don't touch me. You'll answer for your lies. The woman beside him rose, ready to flee, but Ivy's voice stopped her. You should prepare for a lawyer, too. You know exactly what you got yourself into. Nathan's face twisted with fury. You're ruining my life. I let out a steady laugh. You ruined your own life, Nathan. I'm just exposing it. With Ivy at my side, I turned and walked away. Behind us, Nathan's footsteps pounded across the stone path. His voice cracked, desperate. Lucy, please. You'll destroy me. I stopped, pivoted, and locked eyes with the man I once called my husband. No, Nathan, you destroyed yourself. I'm simply refusing to carry your lies any longer. His face drained. If the company hears about this, I'll lose my job. Ivy crossed her arms, sarcasm dripping from her voice. Maybe you should have thought of that before taking your mistress on vacation while trash-talking your wife. Nathan had no words. I shook my head. I didn't come to cause a scene. But you and your mother forced my hand. Now you'll deal with the fallout. Security arrived with the manager. Sir, you're disturbing guests. You'll need to leave. The weight of curious stares silenced Nathan. He allowed himself to be escorted out, humiliated. Linda sat, frozen, clutching her wine glass so tightly her knuckles whitened. Her once proud eyes were hollow. Later that night, Ivy and I walked back to our room, in silence, though inside me a strange relief stirred. For the first time in years, I wasn't trapped in a role someone else had written. The next morning, I called a North Carolina law firm recommended by a college friend, Marilyn Carter, the attorney assigned to me. Listened patiently as I laid out every detail: our cold marriage, Nathan's betrayal, the recordings, the vacation with another woman. Not a single fact was left out. You have clear grounds for divorce, she said firmly. We'll also pursue financial support. And if that woman was involved during the marriage, you can file a third-party claim against her. I nodded. I want every legal avenue pursued. I want justice. Her steady smile reassured me. Then leave the rest to us. You're not alone. Over the next weeks, evidence piled up: hotel receipts, recordings, photographs, and messages Ivy helped recover from Linda's old phone. By the time the court ruled, Nathan had been ordered to divide assets, pay spousal support for 3 years, and watch as his mistress, Melleen Harper, faced a civil lawsuit for alienation of affection. When the first payment landed in my account, I didn't feel victorious. What I felt was reclamation, not of money, but of my voice. My worth no longer belonged to anyone else. Ivy raised a glass of apple cider to me. Congratulations. They can't ignore you anymore. We clinked glasses, and the smile that spread across my face felt light, steady, and real. 3 months later, my life looked nothing like before. Gone was the cramped apartment I'd once shared with Nathan. In its place was a sunlit unit overlooking pool and park. I returned to finance, but now on my terms. As an independent consultant, choosing my own clients and my own projects. Most importantly, I had the power to say no. Ivy pursued her dream at last, enrolling in a graphic design course in Asheville. She once told me, "You were the first person who believed in me enough to live honestly." She didn't know it, but her courage had ignited mine as well. One afternoon, my doorbell rang. To my surprise, Nathan and Linda stood there, drained and gaunt. Their pride had vanished. "Lucy," Nathan's voice cracked. "I lost my job. Melian left. My father cut ties with my mom. We have nothing. Please help us." Linda lowered her head, whispering, "I was wrong. So wrong. But I have no one left. I just hoped maybe you could help us." For a long moment, I said nothing. Finally, I tilted my head. "Strange. Once, I begged you both for a shred of kindness. Now it's you asking." Nathan rushed to plead. "I've changed. I see my mistakes. Just a little help." "I don't hate you, Nathan," I interrupted calmly. "I only regret wasting so much time thinking you deserved me." Linda's eyes filled. "You can't be this cold." I gave a soft smile. "It's not coldness, it's boundaries. And mine is clear. I'll never return to those who disrespected or betrayed me." Then, without another word, I closed the door. I walked to the balcony, opened a jar of sea salt, and scattered it along the threshold. It wasn't superstition, it was symbolism. A clear statement. The past no longer had a place in my life. As the sun set, painting the sky orange, I curled up with the pillow Ivy had once given me. My heart was at peace, because not every ending is happy, but some are necessary. For me, this wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the end of silence, and the beginning of choosing myself. I finally understood. Strength isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's in knowing when to let go. I had been betrayed, dismissed, and abandoned. But those very wounds became the path back to my worth. Life doesn't end when someone walks away. It begins when you decide to move forward on your own terms. And if anyone reading this needs a sign, choose your happiness.